Banks in Denmark made an absolute killing in 2021. Danske Bank, for example, they had a profit of 2.9 billion krona, and that's double from the year before. It was the same in Jyske Bank, and for example, Spar Nordic, another bank, they had their best result in 197 years. If you wonder where is all this money coming from, it comes from people like you or me. Banks are making millions and millions from customer fees, and they're squeezing us for every single krona they can get away with. That can and must stop, and in today's video I'll tell you 3 ways you can use to take control of your money again from banks. Watch on until the end because the third one will surprise you. One is to stop paying card fees abroad. Every time you use your Danish card abroad, you pay a hidden fee. If, for example, you pay in euros, this fee is 1.5% on top of whatever you buy. And if you pay on any other currency that is not krona or not euros, you pay 2%. It means that every time you buy something in dollars or dirhams, you name it, you pay 2% on top of that. What it means, again, specifically is that when you think you're spending 1,000 krona abroad, when you're Dankort or with any of your Danish cards, you're actually spending 1,020 krona. This might not sound like a lot, but if you travel a lot as I do, or you buy stuff from Amazon in Germany, or just spend euros or dollars in some kind of way, buying software, you name it, this can mean a serious amount of money. And again, that's just for paying with a card. There's of course a lot more stuff on top of it. For example, there's all the foreign exchange fees from converting dollars to krona, where you of course also get ripped off. And every time, for example, that when you're traveling abroad, you want to use your Danish card on an ATM, you also get destroyed by fees. For someone like me who travels a lot, this means serious money. So I have saved, I expect around 1,000 krona each year on average. Again, because I travel so much, I buy a lot of things abroad, I pay a lot of things in dollars, you name it. I have saved, because of this, again, by using the trick I'm gonna show you in a second, a lot of money. That trick is to get a Revolut account. If you don't know Revolut, they're an online bank that provides you with a prepaid debit card that you can then top up with funds from your Dankort or via bank transfer, and then you can spend this card without paying any of these ridiculous fees when you're abroad. Again, Revolut is not the only company that does this. Revolut is the one I have been using for now 5 or 6 years, but there are other good ones like Wise or N26. Not only Revolut, this is not a Revolut sponsored video, but again, I have saved now by using their service thousands and thousands of krona now over many years. What it means again in practice is that instead of having to pay this 1,020 krona, you actually really end up paying 1,000 krona every time you actually go and plan to spend 1,000 krona abroad. This is super easy to set up. It literally takes like 30 seconds to top up your card. It just takes a little bit of time and you save this 20 krona each time you spend 1,000. And again, if you do this over multiple months, every time you buy something abroad and then over multiple years, this will mean serious money. And if you haven't tried Revolut yet, there's a link down in the video description. Again, completely recommended. It's a great service. 2 is stop paying ridiculous bank fees and mortgage fees. That's what I just told you now is for foreign purchase fees. There are a lot more fees, and I'll just go high tempo on all the ones you should try to remove or avoid. First one is the fee to just have an account. In Denmark, most of the places, in most of the banks, they charge you to just have the account. Then there's also fees for bills and transferring money between your friends in Denmark, even sometimes within the same bank. You also have fees just to have a Dankort or just to have a credit card. You also have fees for withdrawing money from the ATMs, sometimes from the bank that you use, and also from ATMs from different banks. You have fees for paying with your Dankort more than 30,000 krona within a single month. You have fixed fees for transferring money abroad, for instance, when you want to pay via bank transfer to someone abroad, and maybe a lot more than I can remember at the moment. Can you get all these fees removed? Yes. I mean, I have removed basically almost all of these fees from my life and from my wife's lives as well. That's something we have managed to do. Now, it's not automatic that banks will want to remove all these fees for you. I mean, for me, it took a bit of effort, right? But it's all a negotiation, and what you just need to know is that it's not a fact of life that these fees need to happen. Everything that I just told you can be negotiated with the bank. And I made a course that's called How to Negotiate with the Bank in Denmark. There's a link down in the video description. You should definitely check it out in case you want to lower your fees. The course is specific to the role of banks on buying a house, and hey, if you own a house or have a mortgage with a bank, then it's very likely that you can get all these fees removed. I can't guarantee you here, but if you negotiate well enough, even now you have already selected the bank and you have a mortgage with them, you can really push them hard to get rid of this. If you add everything up, this again can mean serious money. I mean, the banks will of course not give you this without a fight, but if you push really hard, and again, I give you quite good advice as an expert negotiator in my day job, I can confirm you that it's 100% possible. I don't pay any of these fees. Speaking about housing, when you buy a house in Denmark, you can remove, for instance, when negotiating with the bank, the Lånsargebur fee, the Expeditionsgebur fee, the Kopsumsgaranti fee. So if you add up, normally it is around between like 5 to 10,000 kroner, so it can mean serious money right in your house purchase. And again, all you need is to go and to the bank and negotiate. For some people this might not be the case, right? But for me this is really valuable, and you say, okay, if you think you want to save 8,000 or 10,000 krona when you go and buy a house, you should definitely negotiate those fees. Number 3 is to avoid paying negative interest rates. In most banks in Denmark, on top of all the fees I have just mentioned, you also pay negative interest rates on the money you have parked in the bank. Specifically, the majority of banks will make you pay 0.7% per year on deposits over 100,000 Danish krona. This means, for instance, that if you have 500,000 krona in your bank account, you pay around 2,800 krona in interest per year. That's again some serious money for just having your cash parked in the bank. This is 100% a first world problem, not very likely for a normal Joe and Jane in Denmark. But again, like 100,000 Danish krona, it's not, we're not talking about an insane amount of money, so it's less than 14,000 euros. If you happen to have that amount of cash in your bank account, you'll then go again and start paying interest on everything that's on top of it. My take here is that you should avoid paying this. It's just literally throwing money down into the garbage bin, right? So I, for instance, prefer to have around 40 to 60,000 Danish krona in my account as a normal baseline. It's kind of the emergency funds, but like for the rest, I just don't have my money in my bank account. And what I suggest to you as well is that invest it. So for example, I use Nordnet and I have made a video explaining the investing setup over here. But by and large, I mean, that's where I park a lot of my, spare cash. Then I also have some money in my Revolut account, as I mentioned as well. That's how I use to travel. But again, like if I have too much cash in my Danish account, then I just send some to Revolut. And for example, what you can do also as well is that if you don't like Revolut, you can do the same in Wise. There's some online banks like Lunar, I think it's called one, and then you just open another account with them and then just park your money in there. Sometimes also not advice to open multiple accounts in Danish banks, because again, like all these things I told you about negotiating fees and this and that, it normally works well when you just work with one bank. The moment you have two banks, you likely have to pay too many fees. It's just not worth it. And the third point is that if you have any outstanding loans, well, if you have a student loan or a mortgage or whatever, you can actually use the spare cash to pay those loans off. That's even better than to start investing. Sometimes it's good to get those things out of the way. One last thing on negative interest as well, there's a big opportunity cost of just having so much cash, right? So the market went up, so in investing and the stocks as well and so on went up by 20% in 2021. You just don't want to miss great opportunities like that. And of course, 2022 looks a bit more choppy. Some people might still want to have a lot of cash. So for example, if you have a barbell approach to investing, where you basically have like 10 to 15% of your net worth in very high risk assets, and the rest you just want to keep it safe, you might have cash or bonds. Or also maybe you're close to retirement and you just prefer your money safe in the bank, and like, okay, you're fine paying those fees. And that's fine for you, but again, for most people who are in their 30s, in their 20s, even in your 40s as well, I would say, don't want to invest in very high risk stuff. Most of the stuff is actually a good idea to just, as I said, invest in and have the money in different places. And if you have enjoyed this video, you should check 100% this one out, where I'll go through the biggest money mistakes in Denmark as well. Cheers, and looking forward to talk to you again next week.